for unanticipated equipment repairs.
Public hearing. The public hearing on ordinance serial number 25-04 is now open. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. All righty. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance serial number 25-05 by title.
Madam Chair, would we like a motion to adopt the ordinance?
I would definitely
Would you
like
like
a motion to adopt ordinance. Let me get back to it. Ordinance serial number 25-04.
Madam Chair, I move ordinance serial number 2504.
Is there a second?
Graham seconds.
Thank you. Motion is moved. All righty. Now, Madam Clerk, please read ordinance serial number 25-5 by title.
Madam Chair, would we like
Okay, now what?
discussion and then action on the ordinance?
Okay,
You're doing
please
great.
bear with me. Okay. Let's see, is there? Okay, it has been moved by Council Member Crafton and seconded by Council Member Graham to adopt ordinance serial number 25-4. Is there discussion?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
thank you. I'll give Eric a moment here. I think he knows there's probably going to be questions for him. It'd be great if we had Cassie here as well, but I think Eric might be able to handle the question here. So the way I'm understanding this one is we're pulling money from our general fund to replace money into a fund that we pulled money out of to purchase the Vector truck and make repairs. Is that what I'm understanding here?
Through the mayor, no. So the way that regular vehicle maintenance is paid for is out of the repair and maintenance fund within the roads. And so we've had the existing Vector need extensive repairs, and then the Sander needed some repairs. And so those have added up to a level where it is impacting the purchasing ability within that account as we go into spring. And so the request for this is to move some monies out of the general fund to pay off those repairs so that the account, the repairs and maintenance account, has the funds that will see it through spring as we close out the fiscal year.
Okay, and a lot of that's just because we're about to go into working season here, summer season. Now, this $75,000 you think will cover us through budget season. Are we gonna potentially see a little bit of a shortage and need to backfill this account a little bit more come budget season this year due to it sounds like some of the heavier repairs we've had?
So that's a great question. So this coming budget, you will see a new line item within the roads to have funds ready for repairs to large equipment. It had lived in repairs and maintenance, which made it difficult for finance to place those repairs on the assets. And so when we spend 25, 30, 40,000 to repair a heavy piece of equipment, finance takes that expenditure and places it against the expense of that asset. And so you'll see a line item in the upcoming budget that has a line for that says this is the money we're budgeting for those repairs, and then that makes it easier for finance to directly associate it with the machine that we just fixed. What we're accounting for right now is the fact that we have we basically don't have enough headroom in the working capital in that account for the spring stuff that we typically do because those unanticipated repairs came out of repairs and maintenance. So we're trying to fix that in the coming budget, but this is to allow liquidity in that account as we go into spring.
Awesome, thank you.
Member Graham?
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. So at the last regular city council meeting, or after the last regular city council meeting, I talked with our finance director, Ms. Olin, about getting me some numbers about your department. There are some finance numbers, and what she was going to bring to me, and she's unable to be here this evening, and her deputy is unable to be here as well. But did she talk with you about that? My question to her was, how much unspent personnel money do we have in your department? So rather than transferring money out of the general fund, we would take money that's already in your department and not being used because of unfilled positions and use that. Did she run those numbers by you or talk with you about that?
I heard your request at the last meeting, but she and I had not coordinated on that request. So I don't have an answer for you tonight.
Do you have, what kind of vacancy rate do you have in your department?
Well, we don't have any vacancy right now. We do have a temporary summer position that we fill, but we don't have any vacancies at the moment.
Okay, so to the best of your knowledge, you're pretty much right on budget when it comes to personnel.
Yes, finance handles the overall metrics for that, but we
Right.
don't have an open position that would have a balance sitting on it, so.
And we don't have a history this year of having open positions where we would have $35,000 or $40,000 that we could use here and then only use a part of the general fund for these repairs.
We have not had an open position in roads for several years.
Great, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Rubio.
I'm not sure if Eric can answer it, but what is the balance that we usually have for roads repair and maintenance fund?
Through the mayor, so starting balance, Ms. Rubio?
Yes. What do we like to,
I don't have that information with me tonight.
Okay.
Looking for what the budget was, the adopted budget. Is that
Were
what
you
this is?
Councilmember Rubio, were you wanting the approved budget amount for that?
yes.
Is that something you want to take at ease? Can we find it, or?
It's on our website, so we could look.
Okay, did you hear that, Alina? He did say it was on the website, but would you like us to take a recess and go look?
I can look it up if that's the case.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, is there objection to the motion? All righty,
Madam Chair, since we have 3 people on remote, I would prefer a roll call.
a roll call, okay.
I can
All
take that vote.
righty, we'll ask the clerk to take a roll call.
Councilmember Cottle, this is on the adoption of ordinance
Yes.
2504. Councilmember Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Crafton,
Yes.
Councilmember Velock,
Yes,
Councilmember Rubio.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
all righty. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance serial number 25-05 by title.
Thank you. That's amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by appropriating $15,870 from the general fund balance to roads and parks, communication funds to restore funds used for emergency radio installation.
The public hearing on ordinance serial number 25-05 is now open. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. All right, seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 25-05?
Madam Chair, I move ordinance serial number 2505.
Is there a second?
Graham seconds.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Crafton, seconded by Councilmember Graham to adopt ordinance serial number 25-05. Is there discussion?
Madam Chair, I would have the same question for you, Eric. In the roads and parks budget, overall budget for the year, is there some excess somewhere that could be, that we haven't used to this point that we had anticipated using that could be used to cover part of this expense as opposed to taking money out of the general fund?
Through the mayor, so operations budget-wise, there's been some escalations with materials and such, but because of the state of the communications budgets for both roads and parks, we felt the request would be easier to track through the request out of the fund balance. Anything that could be transferred would have been transferred, so that's where our request comes from.
Is there any further
Madam Chair?
questions? Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Rubio.
My question is, they're an emergency radio. Who do they communicate to?
Through the mayor, that's a great question. So MATCOM was able to get a grant for updated radios that have encryption and have multiple channel selections. So these are updated radios that meet the new standards for secure broadcasts that fit within the MATCOM dispatch frequency world, if you will. And so these are programmed to be able to communicate amongst themselves on the right frequency bands and then also back to MATCOM. And so this gives an operational horizon where all of the city assets with these can communicate in a state of emergency, but they can also communicate amongst themselves so they're not over talking when they're in their normal operational bands. So roads can talk amongst themselves and not step on parks, but everyone can get to the same band if there's an emergency and be on the same frequency.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? All right. Is there an objection to the motion? Do you want to do a voice vote?
When we have people on a remote here, I prefer a voice vote so that we know that everybody's being accounted for. So.
Okay. Madam Mayor, can you take a roll call, please?
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
This is on the adoption of ordinance 2505. Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crofton?
Yes.
Councilmember Velock?
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio?
Yes.
Councilmember Cottle?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Clerk, please read ordinance serial number 25-06 by title.
Thank you. Amending Chapter 1.08, Form of Government and General Powers to add Section 108.025, Limited Health Powers to Borough, transferring limited health powers to the Matanuska-Susitna Borough for use of funds paid to the borough under the National Opioid Settlement Agreements.
The public hearing on ordinance serial number 25-06 is now open. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Michael Carson. I'm a founding board member for my house. I also chair the new launched Matsu Youth and Mental Behavioral Task Force, formerly known as the Opioid Task Force. I'm here tonight to support this amendment. As you may know, that the borough was granted $2.3 million for opioid remediation in the area of prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and recovery. However, due to the limited health powers of the borough, that money was only being allocated into 2 areas, training and education. By moving this through to the city with broader health powers, that money can be allocated for direct services. We're talking about case management. We're talking about an action plan between a case manager and a client. We're talking about clinician work, treatment work, and so why is that so important? Direct services allows a case manager or clinician to build a trusting, connected relationship with the client. We know that addiction is all about isolation and that recovery is all about connection and relationships. Direct services will be able to provide that vital relationship to be able to break through the addiction cycle and move the person into recovery. I wanted to thank you for this opportunity, for this very, very important opportunity for us to partner and be able to provide direct services to those in need. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mike. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Please state your first and last name, and you have 3 minutes.
Sure. Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Sparopoulos. I'm the Borough Attorney for the Mat-Su Borough. I'm here tonight to talk about this ordinance very briefly. The Mat-Su Borough, unlike the city, we have limited powers granted to us by state law. We're a second-class borough. And basically the rule that I tell everybody is, if it's not in our list of powers that's found in Title I, we can't do it. So back when COVID hit and there was all these discussions about masks and treatments and things of that nature, we didn't participate in those discussions because it's outside of our powers. We do have a pass-through power for limited health and social services grants granted by the voters to us in 1988, but it's for state grants. And so what we have here is we have the national opioid settlements, and to date we've received about $780,000. And when we stood up a grant program last year, we got about $75,000 or so requested. Pam Graham, who's our grants administrator, is here with me tonight if you have questions. Anyway, and so in looking at that issue, you know, borough management came to me and we started kind of noodling, how could we get more of this money out the door to benefit the communities? The national opioid settlements are several agreements with manufacturers and distributors, and they all have an exhibit attached. And the exhibit lays out how you can spend the money. And things that you can do with the money that the borough doesn't have the power to do are, as was mentioned, wraparound services, residential treatment, transportation for treatment, housing assistance, neonatal abstinence syndrome, care for infant needs, support child care services, prescription monitoring programs, free naloxone for community distribution, and along with education and training. Also research, monitoring, surveilling, non-opioid treatment of chronic pain. And so the borough's goal in this is not to start taking over health powers. Our goal is to get this grant money out into the community so that our community providers who already exist can come get this money and put it out in the community. City of Houston passed an ordinance transferring the powers to us last month. We're asking you to do that tonight. And next month, we'll be over, hopefully, with the City of Palmer with the same request. And it's our intent to communicate with the mayor. If the City Council wants, we're more than happy to come and give you regular updates on what we're doing. Mr. George Hayes, the Deputy Borough Manager, couldn't be here tonight, but we'll be standing up a grant review committee of which the city will be part of, all 3 cities will be part of. And then, you know, people who can apply for grants in a much broader area. Hopefully we can get the money out the door for the better of everyone in the community. And when the money's gone, we will either repeal the ordinances or we'll have to pass an ordinance to repeal the ordinances. The other thing is tonight, if this isn't working for you, you can repeal the ordinance if you don't like what you're seeing in the future. Thank you.
May I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Graham.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Sparopoulos.
Sure.
So, part of the ordinance here, you know, 108025, item B here, which is line 60, 61, and 62 of the ordinance here, says the city retains the power to expend funds in accordance with the allowable uses to the extent that the city receives settlement funds. So is the city transferring all of those settlement funds to the borough, or do you have any idea what percentage the city is retaining and what they would use those for? Or?
So when the national opioid settlement lawyers and whatever, this is $25 billion. They came up with calculations and numbers, and the state had to sign off. The borough received funds directly, and the city of Wasilla received funds directly. So what that's saying in this ordinance is, the money that the city is receiving is unaffected by this. You are retaining your own power to spend your own money however you want. Again, your lawyers will advise you probably to stay in, with the exhibit here. But that's what that's intended to be. Both the cities of Palmer and Houston were too small to get an allocation. So they don't have an allocation. We had some discussion with them about whether they wanted to retain their power in the event they get one in the future. We could always, either transfer it back or have a discussion with them. So the money is not actually changing hands. The city's not giving the borough any money. The borough's not giving the city any money. What we're getting is the power to spend the money in the greater community of the entire Mat-Su borough through this limited transfer powers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wish to testify tonight? All right. State your first, last name, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Velock and council members. For the record, I'm David Wilson, city resident, but tonight I'm representing Mat-Su Health Foundation. Attaching your packet and at the table is a letter from our our president and CEO, Elizabeth Ripley, and I'll just reportion that for the record. At the Mat-Su Health Foundation, our mission is to improve the health and wellness of Alaskans living in the Mat-Su Borough. We believe that the ordinance before you, ordinance serial number 25-06, aligns with our goals by enabling the effective use of the funds from the National Opioid Settlement Agreements to help address opioid crisis in our community. The implementation of this ordinance will allow the Mat-Su Borough to utilize these funds to enhance public health initiatives, reduce health risk associated with opioid misuse, and support recovery programs. This proactive measure will significantly contribute to a healthier and safer environment for all residents here living in Mat-Su and the city of Wasilla limits. We commend the city of Wasilla for taking this ordinance up tonight and this important step, and urge City Council to adopt this ordinance number 25-06. And the Mat-Su Health Foundation stands ready to support the city of Wasilla and the Mat-Su Borough in any way to ensure the successful implementation of this ordinance. And thank you again for your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Anyone else wish to testify tonight? All righty, I see no one. The public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to adopt serial number 25-06?
Madam Chair, I move ordinance 2506.
Is there a second?
Graham seconds.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Crafton, seconded by Councilmember Graham to adopt ordinance serial number 25-06. Is there discussion? Madam City Attorney, do you have a report?
Nothing that Nick didn't cover. I don't know how much this was discussed at introduction 2 weeks ago, but everything he said aligns with Holly's work on this with Nick and the mayor to make sure that we understood the transfer authority and the impact on city funds and the fact that the ordinance does hold back the city's authority over their own funds under the settlement. So it's really just a way to make sure that the borough can distribute those funds in the most meaningful way possible under the exhibit that he referenced. So if there's questions, let me know.
Questions for the city attorney? Thank you. All righty. Okay, so is the council ready to vote? All righty. Madam Mayor, can you do a roll vote?
I can, Madam Chair. Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crafton?
Yes.
Councilmember Velock?
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio?
Yes.
Councilmember Cottle?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
The motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2506 passes unanimously.
All right, we are at persons to be heard. It's a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. Additionally, over the last year, the city of Wasilla has routinely had members of the public attend and read excerpts from novels, some of which involve sexual content and/or descriptions of incest or domestic violence that are not intended for children under the age of 14 and/or may be triggering to listeners or viewers. For those of you with young children viewing or listening to this meeting, or who may be triggered by the descriptions of incest or domestic violence, please be aware we are now entering public comment, and you may want to mute the video or temporarily exit the meeting. We will notify the public when public comment has ended and council is moving on to the next item on the agenda. For those of you participating in public comment tonight, I respectfully ask you to remember that our attendees, viewers, and listeners may be under the age of 14 or victims of domestic violence and are not choosing to read the passages that you are choosing to read to them. Righty, do we have anyone? Oh, here we go. We have Susan McKechnie. Okay, you have, state your first and last name, and if you are a city resident, and you have 3 minutes.
Madam Chair, my name is Susan McKenzie, and I am a city resident. I'm here tonight as headmaster of King's Christian School, Alaska, a new private school in the valley located at King's Wasilla. We currently serve preschool through 3rd grade and have about 57 students in our first year. Next year, we plan to serve through 8th grade, so preschool 3-year-olds through 8th grade, and our enrollment has more than doubled just since we opened that up. It really gets at the fact that parents are looking for school choice. I want to invite you to our first gala as a city council. We are redefining education and igniting potential. Our mission is to redefine education by equipping students to excel as scholars, evangelize as disciples, and engage as leaders. So leadership, discipleship, and scholarship is where our focus is. The gala will be held on March 28th from 6 to 9 p.m. at King's Wasilla. I have some flyers to give to the city clerk when I finish. The purpose of the gala is to cast vision for the school, for the valley, and to just get the word out that we exist and what we're all about. And so just thank you for letting me share, and I'll pass this out.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All righty, Jackie, go forth. You state your first and last name, and if you are a city resident, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Madam Chair and City Council members. My name is Jackie Goforth. I'm passing out a flyer, or the clerk is passing out something that shows the reconsideration of materials program policy that the Wasilla Public Library gives to anyone who challenges. And they give you an interpretation of the Library Bill of Rights. The Library Bill of Rights is something the American Library Association came up with back in 1948. And what it says in it is a person's right to use a library should not be denied or abridged because of origin, age, background, or views. Now, the interpretation has a rating system, and what it shows is they refuse to use any kind of rating system. The adoption, enforcement, or endorsement of any of these rating systems violates the Library Bill of Rights. The Library Bill of Rights is not an official document of any kind. Violating it would not be an issue. Now, in the year 2000, Congress passed a law called the Children's Internet Protection Act in order to make sure that children were not able to access porn sites. The libraries, through the American Library Association, refused to follow that. they were allowing people on the internet, regardless of age, to access anything they wanted to. So the United States told them they were not going to fund them. And the American Library Association, through the ACLU, filed a lawsuit which went to the Supreme Court. It's called USA versus American Library Association, 2003. And in there, they lost. The American Library Association lost. And libraries do have to keep children out of the pornography. They cannot have their Library Bill of Rights. It violates the Constitution. That's in the Supreme Court decision. And what you will see on the second page is the opinion from Chief Justice Rehnquist. And what it says is, although libraries seek to provide a wide array of information, their goal has never been to provide universal coverage. Instead, public libraries seek to provide materials that would be of the greatest direct benefit or interest to the community. To this end, libraries collect only those materials deemed to have requisite and appropriate quality. Now, I have been challenging books, and in Wasilla, I have been challenging them, and I cannot get past stage 1 because I have to request that it be removed, not just moved to adult. And so I shall be starting to request that it be removed from the library because according to the policy, I cannot move to a challenge hearing for the public without going to have it removed. So what I'm asking now, and I've been asking it with the Mat-Su Borough librarians, is where on their ranking do these challenge books fall in the requisite and appropriate quality in their opinion? And that's what I will be asking your librarian. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. All right. We are now on the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the items for approval under the consent agenda by title.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bear with me. We're gonna go do this the old-fashioned way. Thank you. Items for approval under our consent agenda this evening are regular meeting minutes, January 27, 2023, February 10th, or excuse me, 2025, February 10th, 2025, and February 24, 2025. We have 2 introductions recommended for public hearing on March 24th, 2025. The first is ordinance serial number 2507, amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by accepting and appropriating an agreement for sub-grant by the Matanuska-Susitna Borough from the State of Alaska Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development Division of Community and Regional Affairs designated legislative grant agreement in the amount of $2 million for the Palmer-Wasilla Interconnect Grant Number 25DC082. Second is ordinance serial number 2508, amending the fiscal year 2025 budget by accepting and appropriating grant funds from the Mat-Su Trails and Parks Foundation in the amount of $37,500 for Lake Lucille Trail improvements. 1 resolution. The first is resolution serial number 2510, supporting the recommendation of the Wasilla Airport Advisory Commission for the installation of 3-phase power in the Wasilla Airport area and seeking grant funding for this critical infrastructure upgrade. If I remember off the top of my head, we have 2 items that remain under our consent agenda action memorandums. The first is AM number 2504, contract award to Priority Dispatch in the amount of $146,973 for law enforcement protocols dispatching. And lastly, AM number 2508, award of a 3-year contract to Combs Insurance Agency in the amount of $165,000 for insurance brokerage services. That should be it.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Madam Mayor, I move to accept the consent agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I will second the motion.
All righty. It has been moved by Councilmember Graham, seconded by Councilmember Crafton to approve the consent agenda as read. Is there an objection to the motion?
Would you like to do a voice vote?
Do you want to do should we do a voice roll call? Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Councilmember Crafton, this is on the approval of the consent agenda as read.
Yes.
Councilmember Velock.
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio.
Yes.
Councilmember Cottle.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion to approve the consent agenda as read passes unanimously.
All righty, we are now at unfinished business. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance and the IM by title.
Madam Chair, could we take a 5-minute recess real quick?
I'm like, who you talking to? Yes, we'll do
you.
that.
Seven oh five.
We are reconvened at 7:12. Let's see, we are now at unfinished business. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance and the IM by title.
Thank you. Ordinance serial number 2502, amending Wasilla Municipal Code, Chapter 355, Salary Administration Plan to grant the City Council authority to create, retitle, or transfer positions with IM number, I don't know if I'm off or on, IM number 2503, requesting council to amend ordinance serial number 2502 to remove the division requirement for police personnel transfers, allowing flexible staffing adjustments to meet operational needs.
A motion to adopt is pending. Is there further discussion on this ordinance?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Graham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, we've had this ordinance before us for 3 or 4 meetings now, and we finally have a full council. Even though we're not all physically here, we do have a full council attending tonight, so this is the time to dispose of this ordinance. So we had a committee of the whole, and we talked about this and decided to make some changes to this, and we listened to concerns from our police chief because his department has divisions in it, and he was concerned about being able to move personnel between divisions, not creating new positions, but being able to move them with divisions. So taking that in mind, Madam Chair, I move to amend ordinance serial number 2502 to direct the city clerk to relocate the proposed section to Title V by relocating and renumbering. So therefore, we would we would strike the words transfer or transferred and or division to read 3.55.005 position creating and retitling. A, new positions shall only be established in the annual budget or through the appropriation process outside the annual budget. And B, no position shall be transferred or retitled to another department without prior approval from the council by resolution. So I make that amendment. And I need a second.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Madam Chair, may I just, go ahead, you go ahead.
I had some other discussion though. I still had an issue with it saying the city council would have authority to create, retitle, or transfer positions. I think it should say that we have the approval, maybe we'd need to approve the creation or retitling or transferring positions if it affects the budget process. If it's affecting an existing budget, we would definitely need to come to us. If we are going into a budget cycle and it's going to be on the next budget cycle, I think it would be included in that, which we would be including the budget, approving the budget. But I don't like that, us having the authority to create, retitle, or transfer positions. I really don't think that's our job. Our job is to approve it if it is affecting the budget.
Madam Chair, I don't see that wording in here anywhere. The wording seems to me to be pretty plain. New positions shall only be established, doesn't say created, in the annual budget or through the appropriation process outside the annual budget. So at any time, a department can come forward or the administration can come forward and say that they would like additional positions. They would justify that to the council, and then we would fund that, which would essentially establish that position.
Okay, I apologize. I was not reading that. I was reading it off the agenda.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. And for the record, I did talk to the clerk today, and those persons on telecom did receive an email with this, so they're not scrambling trying to write all this down, figure out what we're talking about.
Say something.
Madam Chair.
May I?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, that's
Mr.
right.
Graham, do you mind, since part of the amendment it included the word transfer, I just think up top it should be position transfer, creation, or retitling. Does that suit you?
Yes, ma'am, I have
Okay.
no problem with that Scribner's correct.
Thank you.
Could you clarify where that was one more time?
So under number 3?
Yeah.
So part of his motion is to move it to Title V, so that 355,005 is gonna go away. I will work with the city attorney to figure out the appropriate area within Title V to put it, in the section and subsection.
Okay.
And so that section title within 5 now will be position, transfer, creation, and retitling. And that's only because in B, it deals with creation, transferring, and retitling. Jess, does that work?
Sorry, I don't think I'm tracking anymore. I'm not seeing transfer in I might have misunderstood Councilmember Graham's motion. I thought he was moving to change B to say no position shall be retitled to another department without prior approval from the council by resolution.
He read the word transferred.
Oh, he did. I am sorry.
Transfer or title.
I wanted to clarify, so he's his amendment is moving and making the line item or line changes as well. It's an all-in-one. We're not doing these as two separate motions, just to clarify. I wanted to have a couple words on this too, if I could, Madam Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I think even though it seems like the council's going to have the power to create positions, which we technically do, at the end of the day, through the budget process, that is what we're doing. When the administration or directors come to us and say, hey, we want this position, all they're doing is asking for it at this point. We're giving the council, through the budget process, is giving the final authority to actually do that thing. At the end of the day, I really don't think myself or anybody on the council is really gonna go to Eric and say, hey, Eric, I think you need a new position. I'd like to hire, add this person. I don't think it's gonna work in reverse that way, even though it kind of reads like it feels like that's what's gonna happen here. I don't think that's the intention of this. This is just to say, hey, anytime we're making new positions, or it's going to affect the budget, essentially, we need you to come to us and the council needs to sign off on it before it does happen. So I think this is a really great idea. Again, this was largely brought about because we had some concerns about the change of a position and how much it cost, how much it affected the budget. And so I think this is a really great idea because at the end of the day, the council is responsible for the budget and pretty much every single dollar in there. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Madam Clerk, so how is this ordinance gonna read? I'm looking at this. Is it still reading like, or no?
Can we take just a brief at ease and
Yes, we'll
walk
take a
through
brief at ease, thank you.
Still messed up.
Thank you. Back on the record, 7:21.
Madam Attorney, I think Councilmember Velock, and you
Sorry.
correct me, I don't want to speak for you, but I think some of your concern was perhaps in the title when it says to grant the city council authority to create positions. And I explained that in essence, they have, by providing the funding, that's the authority then to create the position. Then administration goes and they create the position and they do the job description and they assign them a grade and range and they agree on what to pay them. That part is not within council scope. It's just the authority to create what, in my world, I call a PCN, a position control number, or to create the position. And I think that's what we do today. I could be wrong.
Yeah, and I'm not as versed as in what you've sent me forward the ordinances and I've seen your process and I agree from what I've seen that is how the process works. I think the word creation, whether you're comfortable with it or it's largely semantics. I think the approval of the budget is what establishes the position, or your approval, as you were saying, creates the position through the budget process. So it just depends on what terminology you want to use. I did have a question, and I'm sorry if I'm missing this still, but no position shall be, does this read now, Councilmember Graham, as no position shall be transferred or retitled to another department without prior approval from the council? Is that your wording? Okay. I find it a little confusing on its face to be retitled to another department, especially because retitle is not defined in the code and it's not a typical use of the term retitle. Is there something that I guess I just want to make sure I understand what we're trying to accomplish.
May I respond to that, Madam Chair?
Hold on. I'm like, who are you talking to? Yes, Councilmember Graham, go ahead.
I think that was her way of saying, shut up, student, so.
I was reading.
Yeah, I had that same problem several weeks ago with the word retitled, because it's, as you say, it's not defined anywhere in the code. So the attorney talked to me through that with the clerk and said, this is what retitling means. My initial thought was just to strike the word retitling or to define retitling, but she said there is an official definition of it, so it doesn't, it's just not in our code, but legally there is a term called retitling.
And I fully agree with that. I guess I would place the two words in the order that they were originally in the ordinance, just because you don't retitle to something else, you transfer to something else. So if we put transfer in front of retitle, that's where I get lost.
So you would think it should read, no position shall be retitled or transferred to another department.
Right.
I have no objection to that Scribner's change. Thank you.
Do I need to second that again?
No?
I
Do you
feel
have
like it's
any
all scripted.
Any
No.
objections?
from the body? I guess it belongs to the body now.
Does the body have any objections? Hearing none. The motion is adopted. Right?
May I, Madam Chair? Is there any discussion from those online? Right now, the motion before is the amendment.
No discussion from Johnson.
Have we identified where this is going to land in the code before passing the?
Through the chair to attorney, within Title V, I don't know specifically. I think part of the motion was to direct the city clerk to work with the attorney to relocate it and find a suitable place within Title V, which is our finance code.
And I think there is a place in it, and we've discussed that previously as this has rolled through. I'm a little concerned about passing the ordinance without a title and section assigned to it. I have never done that before. I'm just not sure if that's.
Do you want to take an at ease and we
I
can go
would
and look?
like to, yes.
Perfect. Is that?
We're at ease at 7:26.
form of ordinance, and I think that you are fine to go ahead and pass it and deal with it afterward. I apologize, I haven't dealt with that issue before, so I do think we should figure out which provision of Title V it goes into later.
Okay.
Should we take a roll vote?
Everyone's ready to vote.
Okay. If everyone's ready to vote,
Does everyone know what they're voting on?
Now, what are we voting on? We
Yeah,
voting
what-
on the amendment? or are we voting on the
Amendments too.
ordinance?
The amendment right
Okay,
now.
thank you.
okay, we're voting on the amendment, and City Clerk, please take a roll call vote.
You guys want me to read it one last time, or is everybody good? Okay, I will take a roll call vote. Councilmember Rubio, this is on the amendment to ordinance serial number 2502.
Yes.
Councilmember Cottle.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes,
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Crafton.
Yes.
Councilmember Velock.
Yes.
The amendment passes unanimously. So if there's no further amendments, if the council's ready, we'll vote on the main motion as
Okay.
amended. Does that work, everybody?
Okay.
Are there further amendments to offer? Hearing none, this is on the motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2502 as amended. Councilmember Velock, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio.
Yes.
Councilmember Cottle.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
yes,
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Crafton.
Yes.
That motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2502 as amended passes unanimously.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think with the passage of the ordinance as amended, IM 2503 becomes a moot point. Would that be correct?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree with that. Alrighty, we are at new business. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the items.
If there's no objection from council, I will take, or you'll take the AMs in order that they were pulled, and then we'll move into my budget. So the first before you is AM number 2506, award of a 3-year contract to Premier Janitorial Services in the amount of $250,320 for janitorial services at the Wasilla Public Library.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move 2506 and 07 at the same time.
Would you like me to read 07 then? AM number 2507, award of a 3-year contract to Pacific Building Services in the amount of $102,600 for janitorial services at Wasilla City Hall.
So Madam Chair, I move AMs 2506 and 2507.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second the motion.
Okay. It's moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Crafton.
And, for discussion, I had some questions on the bidding here that I was not able to get answered prior to the meeting. Since the meeting started, I have had those questions answered, and I have no objection to passing these AMs.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Graham?
Madam Chair, I'm just curious, what were the questions, if you don't mind me asking?
Since it had to do with a particular company and our history with that particular company, I just needed to find out some information there. So I don't think it would be appropriate to comment in public, but thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the next item.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to do a roll call vote on the adoption of these.
Okay, yep, take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Councilmember Cottle, this is on the adoption of AM numbers 25 and 06 and 07 as a bundle.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Crafton.
Yes.
Councilmember Velock.
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio. Motion passes
Yes.
unanimously. Next item.
Now we're ready? All righty. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the item.
Discussion on the city clerk, records management, and council budgets for fiscal year 2026. And if we could do this in committee of the whole.
Madam Chair, I move that we move into committee of the whole to discuss the city clerk, records management, and council budget for fiscal year 2026.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second the motion.
Okay. The motion was moved by Councilmember Graham and seconded by Councilmember Crafton. Righty. And is there discussion?
Is there a staff report or?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, the only questions I had was overtime. You know, that's fairly substantial in elections. I'm assuming those two are kind of tied together since we're assuming there'll be a mayoral runoff election. Is that kind of what I'm seeing here?
So do you guys want to take these, just take questions at a time? Actually, the runoff election will be in next budget cycle because it's, yeah, so no, not in this budget. There's no funds for a runoff.
So the fairly substantial increase for elections would be due to what, 20% increase in elections for this.
19.75. The $2,000 difference? Is that's just based on, I apologize, $2,000 is, I was like 20%, but that's 2,000. That is based on the increase in voters for our postcard mailing for the election. So every year we have a few more voters, so we mail out more postcards. We order more ballots, so those costs are factored into that, as well as just the cost of supplies. So those are based on actual quotes received from the vendors.
And is the overtime, is that because we're gonna spend some time implementing the ERP, or is there some other reason for that?
You're talking about up in
30%
clerk's office overtime,
Yes.
34%. Honestly, I don't calculate those numbers. Those are done by the finance department. I don't know that spike. I'm assuming she looked at perhaps this year's trend and increased it there. But no, we don't pay, I mean, I don't see without a mayoral runoff election, I'm trying to think of my own staff who receives overtime, the admin assistant and the deputy. I don't know why there's a huge increase in overtime there.
Thank you.
All right.
Were we gonna go line by line here, or are we just asking questions?
How about we go line by line?
That's what we normally do here, is go through each individual account, basically.
So Councilmember Graham just had questions up at the top. We're on the clerk's office, personnel services, personnel benefits. I don't calculate those numbers. Those are done by the finance director, but I have full faith in her calculations. And if I may just indulge me to the deputy clerk, can you think of any reason our overtime budget might have been increased that significantly?
Only thing I can think of is wage, because the wages were.
Oh, there you go. Because wages are increased, so overtime calculation increases. I'm not sure on that dollar amount though, that 34%. So, and would you like me to move on?
I'm sorry, if I could just add in here, looking at the mid-year actual compared to what we amended, I mean, if we're halfway through and we're already looking at $5,600, I mean, just the way I think about it is you would double it to go for the rest of the year. We'd be over, so I wonder if that's why we're looking to go up, because the last couple years prior to that were even higher than what we had planned for this year. That's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah. Good. I have full faith in our finance director. You guys want to move on? Does anyone on the phone have questions in personnel services? So do you want to talk about line item?
There's no problems.
Okay, how about legal?
Is this will this be the last year of our contract for legal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And primarily in this account, what this is for is it is legal services, of course, specific to the clerk's office with our contracted legal attorneys. And then also if a situation arose and I would need to seek outside legal counsel for, could be a recall, could be, any initiatives, referendums, petitions, then also part of that money is used for that. Or would be. So the budget is developed with that in mind. Okay, move on. So next line item, professional services other. Any questions there? And you will note on the back page of this, maybe this is a better way to do it, it's the actual line item explanations. Any questions on professional services other, which includes codification services and public relations? No, okay. Hearing officer, appeal hearings,
I'm just curious about the change there.
on hearings?
Yes.
That's just based on, do you remember when I came back to you this year and requested additional funds? Because we had some appeals pending at that time that I thought would bring us well over the budget. Two of those ended up getting withdrawn, if I remember correctly, so we didn't need as much as I had anticipated then, but just, I'm figuring based on current trend, $30,000 should cover it.
Thank you.
Repair and maintenance. Computer software maintenance.
It's right here.
Going once, going twice. Copier rental. Elections. Communications.
Can we skip insurance? It looks like we had some cost on insurance in the past.
That
We
is a,
budgeted for it this
Sure.
year, and then now we're not budgeting for it. It
Sure.
looks like we haven't spent any money this year, so I assume that's why, but I guess I'm
can't
just curious.
speak to that. That is another line item that is calculated by finance.
Okay, thank you.
So we were on communications, advertising. Any questions on advertising? Printing and binding. Travel. Staff development. Dues and subscriptions.
Are we adding some new dues and subscriptions here?
We added several software subscriptions.
Do you know what those were?
Canva.
Okay.
We have Dropbox, National Association of Parliamentarians, YouTube and Zoom.
Madam Clerk, if I could move back up
Sure.
to staff development. We have 3 people in the clerk's office. We have a clerk, we have a deputy clerk, and then we have an administrative assistant, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So does the administrative assistant, is she being trained so that, you know, if need be, she could move into the deputy clerk position, or or does she have some very specific duties and that's all we anticipate that position would ever do?
No, she is, she attends the Annual Association of Municipal Clerks Conference as well as the Advanced Academy. And then you'll see down the Northwest Clerks Institute, the PD 2 and 4. That's the track you go to become certified, and so she is enrolled in that. Recycling program. Any questions? We're moving down. Office supplies, office equipment and furniture. Any questions from anybody online? Any questions from the dais before I move on? You guys want to move over to records management?
Please.
And then do you want to do the line item explanations? General legal services. Records management consulting services.
Under other, there's the 55% increase. What is,
That is our records management consulting services. We have a lady we consult with out of Washington, and she is helping us implement our electronic records management program.
gotcha, thank you.
So we contract with her on an as-needed basis. So while 30,000 is budgeted, we may use all that, we may not.
And so that's just due to the new system this year, from what I understand. We're just anticipating we're gonna utilize the service
Correct.
more. Thank you.
Computer software maintenance. And Councilmember Crafton, through there, you see the Laserfish, the ECM and digital records. That's the cost of the software for that program. And then along in that is the support portion of the software program. Under travel, you'll see I did budget one conference. Likely the deputy clerk will attend. I didn't have a specific location. They have them on the West Coast. They have them usually a lot of times in Nevada or California. And so I just pulled together some rough costs there. And likely the deputy clerk would attend that conference. Certainly if there's online courses that are better value, we certainly would do that instead. Zach, go
Madam
ahead.
Clerk, sorry, backing up, I'm actually on the detailed page here, I guess, because I'm just comparing. Archive social media retention for 4,500, what does that do for us?
So what that does is any of the city's social media accounts, we contract with a company to actually capture and retain any comments, because technically those are public records and open to disclosure if we had a public records request. So Laserfish Conference, you'll see there in staff development, that's the conference fee. Nagara, we are actually transferring our membership out of ARMA, which was, they dropped their full name, they're ARMA, they're a different records organization, and Nagara is more specific to governmental records. And so in comparing both memberships, I felt like actually really Nagara, and talking to other people, investing in Nagara is probably more applicable and a better way for us to go. General supplies, any questions? And office furniture and equipment. Okay, I'm gonna move on to council budget. Same thing, let's go over the line item explanations. Audit, accounting and audit services, this is the firm we pay to perform the city's annual audit. That quote was presented by the finance department, so you'll see that there. Legal services, I did increase that to 50,000 this year. We just seem to have a lot more activity from the council. And so just based on projects I know I have coming up that I've had requests for, I thought that was a reasonable number. Professional services, they're within public relations, employee Christmas luncheon, and then service awards for outgoing council members. I did increase budget for our luncheon, just simply based on the cost of food. Repair and maintenance, we have a line item there for just any service calls to repair the AV, or just to upgrade or repair the AV system here in Chambers. So if something's not working correctly, we have a local company that we call in and they perform the service. Copy rental, that's just the council's portion of, we divide it up, and that's for copying council packets, etc. Communications, We have data plans in there for the 6 iPads, one for each council member, as well as our teleconference bridge system here in Chambers. That's the cost of that system, the $400. Business cards, that's just printing either council members that have used their business cards and need new ones, or we print business cards for new incoming council members. Travel, this is the estimated cost and number of attendees to each of the conferences that the council traditionally attends. This year, the AML Summer Conference will be held in Utqiagvik, formerly known as Barrow, Alaska. Of course, we have NEO and the Annual Legislative Conference in Anchorage every year in December. Part of NEO is online, so you see that there. And then the Alaska Municipal League Winter Legislative Conference, which many of you just attended in Juneau in February, and all said great rave reviews about that conference. So those are the 3 there. And then along with that, the next line item, the staff development, is the actual conference registration fees to attend. So first line item is your hotel, lodging, airfare, per diem, any type of receipts for parking or taxi. Those fall under travel. And then secondly, staff development is the registration fee. Dues and subscriptions, the city pays a subscription or a dues, to the Alaska Municipal League, and that fee is based there. Moving down, office supplies, we just program $500. If there's something special a council member wants or needs, it comes out of that line item. When we have new council members come in and we buy them the messenger bags to put their iPads and such, we take that out of that little fund. And then we are budgeting, potentially could have 2 new council members coming in. So we have money programmed for their 2 iPads and then 1 iPad replacement. And that's it.
Madam Chair, I move to exit committee of the whole.
I just have some comments I wanted to add before we jumped out there, Mr. Graham, if you wouldn't mind. So one of the developments or travels and in conferences we don't currently attend, but our mayor and deputy administrator are currently at is the National League of Cities right now. Currently, they do 2 different conferences a year. Once in March, they do a congressional summit, so it's an opportunity for them to get in front of their Congress members, kind of like our Juneau trip is. And then they do an annual one, I believe in November-ish, for kind of like our AML winter one that happens in December, just their annual conference. Granted, we're not amending it. I just wanted to at least float the idea out to council and see if anybody had any thoughts on it or wanted to. I would like to start seeing if we budget, at least just for the next year, and see what the NLC would be like, whether it be we send 1 or 2 council members down there. Part of what I've been interested in is they have a lot of additional trainings that they offer for smaller cities like ours, as well as there are more of what we refer to as our business district style cities down across the country. So I'd be interested in being able to network with some of those, and I'd be interested in going myself. Right now, the estimated cost that the mayor went for this year was basically $6,000 for the trip to DC, which that included hotel, travel, and the registration cost inside of that as well. So it'd be basically $6,000 per council member if we decided to go. Other than that, I just wanted to at least float the idea out to you guys, see if anybody had any comments or wanted to say they would be interested in going as well. We can always get more information from the clerk on what's included for it, and I'd love to hear a report from our mayor as well as deputy administrator when they get back, what the DC summit was like, since that would be primarily the one I'd be looking to go to next year this time. Thank you.
Okay.
If I could comment on that, there's we're a member of AML, and AML, of course, deals with municipal stuff, which is what we deal with, and through AML, we participate in the Western Association of Counties conference, and usually at that conference you would have the AML president and the CEO of AML go to that. That may be, and I've been to that as a former president, and that may be a lot more specific to things that we see on the West Coast, because when we look at the Western Conference, it's not California, it's, you know, Idaho, Wyoming, it's, you know, it's the smaller cities, and I got a lot out of that, doing that, so I don't have any objection to going to National League of Cities, but my dealing with National League of Cities is that, yeah, we're definitely in the back of the bus when it comes to that, because I mean, our problems are not similar, you know, enough to Cincinnati's, where we can deal with that, and they just suck up a lot of oxygen at that thing. There are some great, you know, subcommittees and things, but NLC also has a lot of great online things that we can attend, you know, at no charge. I don't think it would be a bad idea to go, but I would rather see it as an amendment to the budget later on, where we can say, hey, I've been going to these online trainings. They're going to have a specific session, you know, in DC, or I can't remember where they're doing the winter session next year, but I'd rather see us be a little bit more specific on that, and perhaps the Western Interstate Council would be a better choice for us to get a little bit more specific.
Madam Chair, if I could. Thank you, Mr. Graham. One of the things I did look into was one of their committees was their small cities committee specifically, and basically jumping on board, which that is sub 50,000 people cities, which, I mean, when you think about it, it's still 5 times the size we are here. But still, it was trying to, because that was my concern as well, and when I started talking with our clerk about it, was getting lost in the fact that, you know, with AML, we're one city in a state, and honestly, we're a rather large city, you know, so people are usually like, hey, what's going on with Wasilla, versus nationwide, you know, it's like, wait, who are you? You know, you're from Alaska. So that was my concern as well, was around getting lost in the shuffle. So I plan to do quite a bit of digging to see what we can learn as well, because from what I understand, we haven't fully plugged in as much to NLC. I asked our deputy administrator, and it sounds like they only attended once every 3 years. I'm not sure if that's standard of the clerk, of the mayor, or if just this current sitting mayor's been the one that's chosen to do that. So it sounds like this is their second attendance to NLC this time around. So again, I'd be curious to see what they have to say about it, and as well, I'll definitely dig into as much as I can so we have some information for it, see if it, again, maybe it's something we try and we realize, yeah, this definitely just isn't worth it for us, you know? But I'd still be interested in seeing how it works out. So appreciate the comments. I think that's all for me tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, my personal opinion, I think it should be, we should research, ponder, see what the benefit would actually be to the city before we spent that money, but yeah. All right, any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I move that we exit Committee of the Whole.
Is there a second?
So you seconded, or is
No,
there
I
a
said,
second?
is there?
I will second.
Oh, okay.
That said the
Okay.
chair seconds, so.
Okay, we are now out of the Committee of the Whole and on to unfinished business. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance and IM by title. No, that's wrong, right?
No, we're good. We're at communications.
New business.
Communications.
We are at communications. We finished new business. Madam Clerk, please read the item by title.
Thank you. I am number 2504. I did a park property purchase update.
All righty, and who is giving us that update?
Is there any, I guess, maybe questions? If there were questions, that would be to the
Who would
Public
be-
Works Director.
Oh, yes, for Eric. Is there any discussion? Ian or Stu, do you have any questions? About
The only question I would have is whether Parks and Rec has looked at this. They were not involved in previous discussions about things, and I didn't see this on their agenda at any point.
Eric, do you want to come up?
Through the mayor, let me make sure I understand the question. You're asking if Parks and Recs has seen this?
Correct.
They have not. I'll be talking to them on Wednesday, and I can bring it up at that point.
So is there a need to move this prior to them seeing it, and is there some urgency to this, or?
No, this is informational. You'll see a packet when the survey is complete, so that we know what the proposed purchase price is. It'll follow Title V for that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. All righty, any other questions, discussion? Okay, commission minutes, none. We're at audience comments, which is a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. Is there anybody who'd like to speak? Okay, please state your first and last name, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council. I'm Jeannie Trushinsky. I'm here as the president of the Friends of Wasilla Library tonight. We just finished our blind date with the book. We checked out more books than we've ever checked out before in February for the project. People love it. They're always excited about it. We had a Saturday activity called Dog Man, which is a kid's book that's really popular. We had 84 folks attend that. We had a puzzle day, which is our second puzzle day, and we had 42 people attend the puzzle day this time. We are bringing Max Brailer, who is an author for like middle grades, like 5th, 6th grade, on April 10th. And we'll have more details as we get closer. We're working with the Anchorage Public Library System to bring Max Brailer here, and we're super excited. He is a really popular middle grade author. For our book club on May 5th, Aowen Ivy will be there to discuss her new book, and we're super excited to have her. On April 19th, we're going to have another concert at the library. This one's really going to be focused for kids, and as a part of that, around the Story Walk. In the Story Walk, we're going to have like pictures of eggs that you can hunt for. No one could afford to have a real egg hunt. But at the end, after you fill out your little match the egg pictures, then you can get a bag of treats. Our next book sale is April 12th. We're getting our donations right now for summer reading. Always really a popular program, and it takes a lot of money to support that program. We received a grant from the Alaska Council on the Arts, and it's paid for through Rasmussen for $17,000 to offer 3 art classes for seniors in the library. Our next class will start on April 9th, and I have a flyer, and we're going to learn to do this painting thing called one-stroke painting. It is a spectacularly beautiful way to paint flowers, and we're going to learn from Audra Rieger. And the class is almost full. It's a mad dash to get in because the last class was so popular. Our second program will be this summer, July to August, and it will be at Wasilla because we just don't have space at the library during summer reading. And then our third program will be in September. So that's super exciting. I'd really like to encourage you all to consider seeing the movie Free for All. It's a documentary put out by PBS. We had an opportunity. The Willow Library, Wasilla Library, and Palmer Library had a screening at the cinema, and it is a really powerful movie about the history of libraries in the United States and their importance in our society. The full movie, we just saw the screening we saw was 60 minutes. The full movie will be released on April 29th on PBS. That's what I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeannie. Anyone else? All right, seeing none. We are now at Mayor, City Attorney, and Council comments. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great job tonight. It was good to re-chair with you. We haven't done that for a while. Attorney Jess, thank you for being here. And then really my only thing is if you haven't got your POFD in, March 15th is fast approaching, so I'd love to see that. And then in the written clerk report, you see all of our budget dates. And so that is just literally right around the corner with introduction on April 24th. And so before that, though, we'll see you here next regular meeting, March 24th. That's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And Madam City Attorney?
Nothing from me. Thanks for having me tonight, and Holly will be back for the next meeting.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Graham.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to those of you who stuck around and to the staff for providing good information there. As you're well aware, at the last council meeting, I was more than a little bit upset with what's happening at Nunley Park over there. I think what has happened is inexcusable from the public standpoint. There should be no significant modification or destruction of city parks without getting city involvement, and there's certain, or without getting involvement of the citizens and users of the parks, you know, any more than we should just shut the library down because we feel like it. I think the administration has taken the wrong tack on this, and I think we, the city council, need to stop what's happening at Nunley Park. Therefore, I move that the city council pass a will of the council proposal asking the administration to cease operations at the Nunley Park until such time as the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Public Works Department and the citizens of the city of Wasilla and the users of the park and the city council can come up with a plan for that park, which is approved and not generated internally, but involves the professional contractors that will be needed and a landscape architect and a park designer. So I asked at this time I would move that the city council pass a will of the council to have the mayor and the administration stop what they're doing in Nunley Park immediately so that we can put together a plan and have that plan approved. And I will need a second for that.
Madam Chair, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion moved by Councilmember Graham, seconded by Councilmember Crafton. Do we have some discussion?
Madam Chair,
Councilmember Crafton.
just to clarify from Mr. Graham here, basically you're just saying, hey, I want this going through the proper process here. Nothing else should be done until Parks and Rec looks at it. We have some public input and a proper plan is formulated. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, sir, that's correct. I think what's happened over there is essentially we've taken a park offline with, as far as I could tell, no plan. Nobody at the city's been able to come to me with a plan and say, this is what we're wanting to do, this is what we plan to do, this is what it's gonna cost to do. And these are the people that said this is what we need to do. You know, I've taken 41 phone calls since they cut those Blinken trees down over there. That's almost more votes than I got in the last election. But I mean, I've taken 41 phone calls, and people are mad as hell, you know, because that is a family park. That's where you go to take your young children. That's not where teenagers hang out. It's not Wasilla Lake Park. It's not Iditarod Park over there. This is, you know, kind of a local, it's almost a pocket park, an oversized pocket park, but it includes the community gardens there. It includes the upper grass area where people teach classes and do yoga and all sorts of stuff over there. And what has happened over there, what appears to be happening over there was not in line with what the council passed the last 2 years as far as park improvements go. So it needs to be a transparent process, and when we're dealing with public properties, the public needs to be involved. Like you say, there needs to be a process, and we have a process. We need to follow that process.
We're just following the process here. I'd support that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Council members online, any discussion? Hearing none. I guess I need to weigh in.
Councilman Johnson
Oh.
supports the idea. I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, okay, thank you, Councilman Johnson. Alina?
Thank you. If I'm understanding and we're asking to follow the process, I agree.
Okay, thank you. And Mia, following the process, I would say, I guess I would agree to that also. I just don't think it's as devastating as Councilmember Graham does, but, and I do frequent it a lot, but I think, but you're right, it didn't go through the right process, but. So, where do we go from here?
After
Roll
this
call.
discussion, you could do a roll call.
Okay, Madam Mayor, or Madam Clerk.
Attorney,
Haven't
just
been
did
Madam
you
Mayor
have
before.
anything to add?
Madam Clerk, can we take a
I
roll
just,
call?
in all fairness, I'm not sure.
Exactly
Yeah.
what we're doing.
I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I don't know what's happened factually. But also when we start referring to a process and whether it's been followed and what we're stopping, I just think being really finite in the motion and what you're seeking to have happen is important. So if there's a particular provision of code or if there's something that needs to be stopped, I'm not clear. And if we're interfering with city contracts, if trees were bidding, I don't have any frame of reference for what we're talking about. So it's hard to give legal advice.
If I could fill in just a little bit, Madam Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the work that's been done so far has been done by city personnel. There are no contractors involved. There are no contracts issued for the park over there. I intend to follow up this will of the council with the resolution at the next meeting, which would be specific. But at this point, I just want to stop what's going on over there without the public being involved and being part of the process of revamping that city park.
I think moving as a will of the council and making sure you capture the words of what's being asked to have happen, and then I can't speak to what you're stopping exactly or what administration's response would be to what you're stopping is the only, there's no problem with taking a vote and making a motion and doing all the things. I'm just not sure what the outcome or what the impact will be because I'm not sure what administration would state their ongoing activity to be.
And just for the record, the will of the council is not a binding document. We're just telling the administration that this is where we think the process needs to go. So stop what you're doing, let's put together a process and move forward.
Yeah, and what I understand is the trees were all cut down where the council had approved better lighting in there because it's a real dense area and there was bad things going on in there. And the mayor had the trees just cut down and her plan was, to plant other things in there. So that's what happened without council approval.
I think council members Graham's clarification that you're the will of the council, how I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page as far as the impact of a vote on that, so. With you.
So Madam Clerk, would you do a roll call vote?
I will. Can I just restate what I think the motion is?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It is the will of the will of the council is to request that administration cease any redevelopment of Nunley Park until a plan is put together and approved. Is that?
Funding provided.
Well, I think that'll be part of the
Approve
plan.
the plan, it would be funded, so.
So is that where, Madam Deputy Clerk, did we get that? So, okay, so roll call vote. Councilmember Cottle, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crofton?
Yes.
Councilmember Velock?
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio?
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0, and I probably should have added, you're going to bring back a resolution kind of highlighting what you'd like to see for council consideration, formal action, and this is the will of the council and is non-binding at this point in time. So, thank you.
That is correct. I will follow up with a resolution at the next meeting. I just didn't have time to get it on the agenda for this meeting here. So Still not time for public comments. Like I say, I appreciate everybody being here and spending their time with us. I know this is not the most exciting thing in the world, but, you know, politics starts at the basic level. You know, this is where you have the most impact. So I appreciate everybody being here, and I appreciate everybody that's put work into this. So have a good night.
Thank you, Councilmember Graham. Councilmember Crafton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good meeting tonight, good discussion. Thank you all for hanging out, making it till 8:15 here. We'll keep it short tonight. We'll see you guys at the next meeting.
Okay, Councilmember Rubio.
Thank you. Great meeting tonight. And I had worked with the clerk this afternoon to draft up a little paper for everybody on adoption of the OR 2507. And I'm just kindly asking Madam Mayor to present a detailed project report along with information on the sources of future funding required to complete the project, as well as the estimated cost for managing and maintaining the system. And so I believe everybody will get a copy of that. Correct, clerk?
It's been distributed.
Yes, we did receive that, Councilmember Rubio. We have a copy of it.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Anything else?
That is it.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Cottle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good meeting tonight. And if I can ask the clerk if possibly get through an email to get that information that Councilmember Rubio was speaking about.
Councilmember Cottle, I will touch base with you tomorrow. Yes, we may have to do a different upload because there's a lot of documentation, but yes, we'll get that.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilmember Velock, for tonight, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Kathy. And Councilmember Johnson. Are you there, Tim?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. No, there's nothing that I have further. I'll probably be calling in next meeting. And I hope everybody got my memo that I sent out today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. And yes, we did get the memo. We're very saddened by that. We will miss you. Dang. Okay, my turn. Thank you, everyone, for being patient with me tonight. And that's it. Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay. Anything else? I'll
There's
adjourn.
no executive, yeah, and then adjourn.
Okay. There is no executive session tonight. So, let's see, because the city's negotiating team is not set to meet with the WPDEA until March 24th. As there are no new developments, I suggest canceling tonight's executive session. I'm sure there's no objection to that. Okay, with no further business at hand, I am adjourning the meeting unless an objection is raised. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at, Ms. Kinchelow. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 8:20 p.m.